TV. This is a program that gives you the practical ideas and tips that you can apply to design and facilitate both meetings and workshops. And that'll give you the added value that you need to support your clients and organisation. I'm Margo O'Byrne, and I'm joined today by my colleague Will Besson.
Thanks, Margo.
Great. So the topic that we're going to look at today is how do you prepare and what do you do at a pre-workshop meeting with a client?
It's a good question, Margo. As a facilitator starting out not that long ago, it was really quite a daunting kind of situation, that pre-workshop meeting for me. You knew your facilitation processes, you'd seen them in action with different groups, maybe with the person that you often work with, but that actual meeting where you have to sit with some high-level people, and they know a lot more than you do about the situation, the sector, and in a way, I thought that you almost had to bluff that to begin with. You really had to sell what you were about there. So one thing I picked up early on was that you actually don't need to sell yourself. What you really want to look for at the start is to find that narrative about why that workshop's come about, that event. So ask a really broad question. So how's this all come about? And really let that client lead off first. Let them talk through it. You take fastidious notes because you'll often hear things pop up about different groups not getting on or what the real focus here is. Let them do the talking, then you can start to get into that purpose, objectives level. But I've found that when you try and lead off straight away with this is what I can do and etc., they kind of sit there thinking, okay, this guy seems to think he knows it all.
That's a really good point. That's a great piece of wisdom that you've uncovered there, Will. And I think part of it is that quite often the clients are so busy in their own everyday work, they don't actually take the time out to think about this whole workshop and what it might be able to give to them in their organisation. So by you being able to reflect that back to them and give them that time, sometimes that's when the cogs go. And they're actually figuring that out themselves.
Because they're subconsciously picking up on that story, because they're living it every day. They often just don't verbalise it.
That's right. And sometimes one of the questions that I usually put to people at that time is, what if you could get the very best possible outcome at the end of this workshop or meeting, then what would it be? What would it look like? And quite often I get this, gee, that's a good question. And sometimes what they tell you in that discussion is quite different than what they've actually rung you up for. So it's often a chance for the client to actually tease out for themselves the real problems that are going on there. One of the things that I've found too is one of my questions that I ask of clients is there any conflict in the group at all? And about 90% of the time the answer, no, we don't have any conflict here. So then I find another way to come in and ask that question again. And it's usually, well, how did the communications people get on with the IT people? And then I go, oh, God, they can't stand each other. Oh, right. And are they both going to be at the workshop today? Yeah. So then you actually start to unpack it, which is similar to what you said earlier. Good point.
And just a quick practical one that I've often found is, as a citer, if a client starts talking about a specific piece of process, an activity they want to try out, World Cafe, a certain icebreaker, they're almost alarm bells where you think, let's bring it back up a level, let's just get clear on that purpose, those outcomes, that what would you want from the end of the day that you would be happy to live with, then get stuck into that process talk, or it may not even come up in that first meeting. You may have to say, look, lots to take on, I'll take this away, think about the best agenda and process, I'll get back to you and we can talk further.
Precisely, that's what I do more often than not. It's usually, because people have seen one thing work, and what works in one situation is not necessarily going to work for the group that you're working with. And you have to discern that. You have to actually figure that out and use your own understanding and knowledge and reading and thinking around all of that. And so I will say to people, that's a great idea. We could go World Cafe. Another possibility is this. There's even this idea here. let me just take it back and think about it, and I'll get back to you with that, and we can talk some more. Even if it means going and having an extra meeting with the client, it's better, and then you're helping them, the client, to come up with the solution with you.
Yeah. Just because you're a facilitator doesn't mean you have to get consensus in every meeting.
You're right. Great spot to finish with.
So, another ripper episode of Facilitation TV. Hope that we gave you some sort of practical ideas that you can use in pre-workshop briefings or any meeting that you have to help structure it a bit further. Thanks for having us, and
thank you.
We'll be back soon.